everybody. How y'all doing today? I hope staying COVID free and all of those good things. But we back again, Gilded Sages, Black Anglo-Saxon. We got InquisitiveQ over here about to bring y'all another conversation. But before I get started, just go ahead, like, share, and we're about to go ahead and just jump into the conversation, right? And so today, behind me, what you see on the board is I understand, but because I think people have a hard time like understanding that because you can understand something, that doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with that thing that you understand. And so like today I just want to talk about a couple like different scenarios and a couple different examples. And we can just kind of talk about and flush it out in terms of like
You talking
people
about
who
dry snitching?
people not understanding and comprehending. Like I can fully understand you in terms of the context, um, why you're doing something, but still disagree with it. And so the first one I got, is I want to talk about, people can have whatever they want in terms of values, but it comes with certain repercussions, right? And so I was having a discussion just basically around the idea of, I personally felt that when you, or I personally felt that you can overindulge in things, right? And so we were talking about sports, and I made the comment online that, people overindulge in terms of entertainment, sports, or whatever it may be. And so the retort to that is people should be able to value whatever they want, And I said I agree with that. I understand I'm not necessarily arguing that people shouldn't be able to value what they want, but in terms of what people want in regards to the society and things that they want, like the level of autonomy that people talk about, you can't value one thing and then on the other side not understand that because you value, say, drilling down on the level of stats within a sports game or a level, a makeup me with fashion. I understand though that fashion is irrelevant in the larger grand scheme of things, which is why I try to put politics first. I'm a politics first person when it time out.
Yeah, time out. I understand, but
Oh,
what you're talking about to me is that people having a shallow understanding of what it is that they're involved in or their interests. It's like it's more like you know how I am. It's like I suck at small talk. I prefer real conversation. So what I'm hearing is like someone who watch Sports Center, right? They're constantly talking about Sports Center, or they'll talk about, let's say, Derrick Rose being on an injury list. They can name the injury, but they don't like anything involving medicine. It's like injuries are a medical thing. So I don't understand why a person who comes from a household in which sports is very important doesn't also involve themselves in sports medicine or anything involving medicine, because that is an integral part to sports. And you know me, I like to create things, but I also understand that to be real, most things people do is they have a conversation with someone else, not necessarily to understand the concept for itself.
yeah, and I have an issue with that. Like, too, you have to understand things on a conceptual level because of the mechanics that go along with the concept. So it's like, look, time is not unlimited. You only have, so people will say, you only have 24 hours within a day, and you can spend those however you want, but you got to understand certain things are blocked out. Like you're going to sleep on average for about 3, 4, maybe 5 hours when you're talking about trying to keep up, right? Now you can do that. You can do that.
Yeah.
You can sleep those 3 hours. You can dwindle it down, but it comes with a negative lifestyle.
Yeah, it's called sleep deprivation because you need 8.
Exactly. And keeping it on like the sports, and people, what they'll talk would be like, oh, well, you want everybody to be political and so on and so forth. And though I do believe that, I understand that everybody is not going to engage in it at the same level. But my thing is, you have to understand though that that thing is a chore. That thing is a necessity. The politics and civics are how the society moves. It is the affairs of the city. And so, people always will say, I can walk and chew bubblegum. It's like, okay, I agree with people saying that you can walk and chew bubblegum. You absolutely can. But with where we're at currently, it seems to me that people cannot multitask. And the reason that I use the term overindulge was because if you were able to juggle 3 balls, you wouldn't be overindulged. I can drill down on whether it be film or anything that doesn't necessarily come down to the civics part of society. You should also be able to drill down on those things that are important as well, or at least have an understanding.
I'm laughing because it's like, yeah, there's a whole part of my social network will totally understand what you're talking about in the sense of we can take politics and sports to be quite literal when you look at South Africa and Nelson Mandela using rugby to bring the apartheid state to an end. But that's a level of sophistication. And that level of sophistication of civic understanding starts with the education, and you know me, education starts in the home. So when going back to the ESPN in the Sports Center, the Sports Center is on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say because I don't necessarily.
And that shit run on cycle like 10 times throughout the day. It's the same thing on repeat.
It's the worst CNN, son. It's the worst CNN. But it's funny. But my thing is that if you notice, and I really don't like about the pater familias or the family, the father, patriarchal driven energy that you can still find in Black America because it's hilarious to me. Although I don't like it in the Western imagination anyway. But if you have let's say your daughter, who self-identifies as a girl, is watching ESPN because she likes to watch ESPN. Why is it that we don't have a conversation and ask her why does she like to watch ESPN? What is she getting from ESPN? Because you don't get the same things. And that's what I've noticed is like when you get different people coming to us, like, I like the sports injury. Why? Because I like the science behind it. Or no, I don't necessarily like football, but I like rugby. I want to do field hockey. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so there's some energy that this young lady is presenting that she wants to be a part of it, but they don't have that representation. So you lose that energy. And again, the only way for me you get sophisticated systems is that you have people within. It wasn't just that I want brownie points for being intersectional. It's like, no, what I'm saying is, why do we drive away those who are interested in something? Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way you're going to get sophisticated things is that you have to put people in place who actually give a damn and care about it for itself. But we don't. We have people who watch ESPN Sports Center because they have nothing else that they can talk about. That's why they write off statistics, because they can't sit here and talk about, hey, design furniture. They can't sit here and talk to you about why Danish furniture is smaller than American furniture.
And my thing is with it, you shouldn't, and I don't have an issue with it. My thing is you shouldn't be, because when you talk about the furniture, when you talk about the sports, when you talk about the fashion, and when you talk about film and all of those different other categories, I'm putting all those on the same level. So all those on the same level for me. If you can talk about the furniture and design, if you're not talking about it from an architectural standpoint, and you're talking about it from more of just the shallow aspects of it, you should also be able to talk about it from, again, like with the more context around it.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm hearing from you is that I want more sophisticated conversations with people, especially when it comes to about the political discourse of Americans. Like, why are we just voting for personality instead of voting
persona?
Because
That's it. People don't care about the policies.
They don't.
Ain't nobody named one Joe Biden policy right now.
Racism sells. Sexism sells. I hate to be the cynic in the room, but I'm the French poodle right now. And you gotta growl at it because it's the truth. Like, it's the truth. It sells. Look at Columbia Records. Just look at Columbia Records.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling. No, this is one more thing you gotta Google because we gotta get to that point where just because. And people doing a film all the time, they just explain things. It's like, no, you got to be sophisticated. You have to do the work.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I
tell people,
even with politics and political content, and even working out, I don't always like doing it. But I understand that if I don't do it, I'll rather not suffer the repercussions of, again, we're talking about an administration right now with Donald Trump rolling back all kinds of labor laws. That is a direct consequence of people not engaging it. Because when we talk about people, not going to or not engaging like community, whether it be community meetings, whether it be your legislators, whether it be the executive, whether it be, again, just having those forums where people can have those conversations and not have to have them within a hodgepodge of things that don't matter because a lot of it gets lost. And that's like my thing, what I tell people thing with like entertainment, right? It's like, I get it, I understand, because the way people are set up, you have to kind of galvanize them into watching it by doing and what I would call antics, because you're bringing in certain elements to immerse people in it, and it's not, and it becomes about that and not necessarily the content.
You know what you would love? Who you would love? Roland Barthes.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good.
It's structuralism. It's the grand eloquence. Basically, people know that wrestling is fake, but they like the grand eloquence of how the match plays out. It's pageantry.
But that's the thing. I agree that it's pageantry.
Yeah.
But if we are to move past what we are in,
They don't want that.
we have to change our behavior, because these things are always responding to each other.
Yeah.
So it's like people are going to continue to treat you one way, and we can move like boom into wanting to argue the idea that, look, something has happened and occurred over time a certain way, right? And people do this thing where they'll say, if it has been that way, especially when it pertains to like Black people, you should then allow it to be that way. As a what I would call a very, very fallacious argument. It's like, oh, okay, cool. We can talk about reparations. People will say, well, nobody has ever gave Black people any policy, right? So why should we advocate, or why should we expect that? And it's like, look, if you don't expect anything, you won't get anything.
Yeah.
Because that's responding to each other.
Yeah, but this is why I agree with you saying.
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying, but in my head, you know how when it comes down to like double consciousness in America, it's just spatial reasoning for me in social capital and how we're socialized.
Gotta be the Black Anglo.
The way we're socialized. Because in my head, I went from Black America. That's what he did. I went from Black America to white America, going like, that's why it takes a few nutballs to get out in front, to model a new life for people to follow. Because other than that, no one gives a damn. It's like, no, son. What I don't like about the racism and sexism is that it really divides those who have a genuine interest. Most people do not have a genuine interest in anything. Nothing. They do not have a genuine interest in anything and nothing. That's why they can get marketed to them. That's why when Donald Glover said on as Childish Gambino, like, do you like the way they gave it to you?
not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
When you talk about which way they give it to you, man, and that's just another thing, because it's like, look, even when we talk about Democrats and Republicans in terms of the type of racism that exists, people will say, I prefer this racism, like our elders are more so along that line of like, look, because, and again, I understand it because they come from a moment where the reality was you were getting hit with billy clubs and
shot,
exactly lynched. We just in 2020 got a bill for anti-lynching. Like what the hell? For now, like what? But so again, that goes back to it because it's like I understand where you're coming from, but I need you to move past that, and I need you to understand that I don't agree though, because what you're doing when you do that is you're absolving and not understanding that it's still racism, and because it's more subversive, it almost is more dangerous to be subversive because I can't see it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like you end up in this situation trying to articulate to people, it's like, look, I get it, I understand, like, the GOP is a threat. The GOP has always been a threat. Because even when we talk about right now, everybody's COVID and black people, why do we have the numbers? It's like America is black people's underlying condition. Like we, as an institution, America has compounded violence on top of our community, whether it be economic, whether it be social, whether it be mental, whether it be medical, whether it be just a myriad of ways.
Yeah, but not every black American. What I would say, because it's right, it's in the number. What America does is that America makes blackness seem like it's poor. And so the common narrative of America, period, is rags to riches. So you get in all immigration population, black American population, you get this rags to riches story, but in America, because blackness is a caste, and not a class, you also have this in American imagination of blackness constantly redeeming itself, like the new Negro and all those other things, saying that I am worth economic weight. When I say black Americans have never been unskilled, they just haven't had the equity in the legal protections to profit from those skills, as well as being excluded from wealth creation opportunities that white Americans have. Therefore, you have this perspective that black people have not advanced, and that's when we get to Atlanta Compromise and all that stuff. But the point I was trying to make is that we also have to acknowledge in America, I say from the hood to the holler, you have to recognize that the Red Sea has also been for a long period of time excluded from economic enfranchisement. And the reason I say that is because America does not want to pay for the poor. If you're poor, it's your fault and there's something wrong with you. And that's something that has to be changed globally because it's part of the Western imagination. You're poor because God blessed me. And it's like, no, poverty, all those things that you're talking about, and why most people would read it as like, no, he's vehemently saying what the assaults that Black America has endured, has maimed the people, but they don't see it day to day.
And so I want to say that, and it's crazy because it's like people one day are apolitical, then the next day they want to talk about politics, and it's just like, how can you then say, because they also are historical
news cycles?
It's like on one hand, you want to tell me to let go of the past and that, oh, you a radical, oh, you too black, oh, you this and you that. I need to let go of the past and I'm holding on to old stuff. That's what people want to say to me, right? But when it's something of benefit, those same people always want to insert race. And I have an issue with that. And an example, because I was having a conversation and I said, oh, okay, cool. Since we want to continue to be ahistorical with it, I'm just going to make the comment that black people aren't free, right? Because in the end, if you want to make that argument, now I'm going to say to you what y'all always say to me. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And if you look at every chart, wealth chart, any chart regarding black and white throughout the duration of America, black is at the bottom. Now, the retort to that was, I'm wrong now. But it's like, no, since we're being ahistorical and I need to let go of those things, you can't then say that you aren't inferior. If you're talking about a race, if you're talking about capitalism, if you're talking about playing this game, and you're talking about matriculation, you are losing.
And here is where
it happens.
Yeah, I get you, and I'm agreeing with you because I'm going in my head like he's attacking informal fallacies and he's giving logical syllogisms, and people just don't understand the premise of most of the things that they say because part of talking is not necessarily to convey information, but just to bond. But again, I'm sorry. The leader has to lead the people. Some people have to get left. That's a part of Black American canon all over. You have to be left. I cannot fight for my freedom, your freedom, if you're not willing to ideologically see that you are shackled. Like one of my favorite songs is Redemption Song with Bob Marley. It's like, no one but yourself can emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. It's like, yes. If you're not willing to do that work, I'm not willing to give you resources. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. And what I mean by resources is that we all know, like, oh man, you got it. God bless you for that. It's like, yeah, son. God bless me to understand that life is not about having fun. It's about survival.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is The Last Poets. I sent you that joint. Niggas aren't afraid of revolution. If I'm looking at Black American history and other Black American leaders are telling me, some understand this, some kinfolk ain't for you.
Check this out.
Leave
right?
them, son.
Check this out. This is what people want to say, right? People want to love Baldwin. Oh, I love Baldwin. Oh,
they don't read Baldwin.
Hold on. They will say all that, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, nigga, what you mad for? Well, guess what? Y'all love quoting it. He said, when you understand America, you just gonna sit in the rage. You just gonna sit in it because you understand that at each and every layer, in each and every facet, the only real freedom that you have is to be able to fight. Because once you give up, it's crazy. Because once you take the stance of like, oh, I'm not going to advocate. It's like, yeah, do I understand reparations is highly unlikely in terms of coalescing people around it? Hell yeah, I understand that. But in the end of the thing, it's not going to stop me from fighting for it. It doesn't stop. Do I know the world is like jacked up? Yeah, but it doesn't stop me from getting up every day and trying to change it. Once I do that, I lose my liberty because I lose the ability, because basically what you're doing is you're submitting and you're like, oh, well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Absolutely. And that is why I'm not going to lie to you. People pick their leaders. Leaders are called upon. Leaders are chosen. You cannot choose yourself as a leader.
I agree.
Well, let me do here my whole point to it. You just said, I'm willing to lead people who are willing to put into the effort to have a more perfect union. It is not about the skin color, it's about the ideology.
That's it.
So if you have the ideology that we need to close these labor loopholes so that people are not exploited, we need to get people stabilized in housing so that they can invest into their future, you're going to have a lot more people that goes like, you know what? He's also speaking to me. not everybody is stuck in this color thing. And for some people, the color line, I'm talking about the boys, the color line is real. But speaking historically, Reconstruction era, poor white people was like, hey, we need help too. And that's why it's also said when you help Black America, you help America.
Because people don't understand that America exploits everybody through blackness.
Because it's a loophole.
The color exists, the color line exists, but again, look, you can't say that race is or acknowledge race is a false construct, which it is, and then still want to participate and partake in that identity. Like, no, your identity was created by a person who had malintent. 9 times out of 10, I can bet you that your identity is the thing that in a lot of instances enslave you through, like you said, being exploited by the legal definition of blackness. And so it's like,
I just want to calculate that on that point. That is the only time Americans are an ethnicity on statistical data that feed formulas and policies. Other than that, we all do the same shit.
Yeah.
You want to know how I know? Our pop culture says it. Columbia Records, I'm going to say it again. Columbia Records. Once you start seeing race records and everything else, you're like, oh shit. Once you really understand slavery, it's like, damn, son. That's just my cousin, for real.
And you know what, though?
That's my cousin. I'm beefing and mobbing on my cousin. Because we can't acknowledge it. Slavery was such a visceral attempt at domesticating another human being that literally it's family fighting family, and that's why America not winning.
Yeah.
It's family fighting family, and America not winning. That's why America not winning. Because we family fighting family.
And won't win until you understand that, look, you owe us, you did what you did, and you can't really repair this society without addressing it. You can't, because the people who have the power, going back to your comment about Reconstruction, the Gilded Ages, all of those people who amassed wealth in that era, bro, they're gonna continue to amass wealth. Wealth begets wealth. And you gotta understand, it's like, those are the people who came out of that whole series of errors. And so if you don't address that by approaching and extracting from them economically to undergird along with government, because government also participated, you're fooling yourself. You have to go after the institutions as well as, and I say tax the people too, because people want to act like white people just didn't freely, openly participate.
We got to separate that whiteness though. We have to. Because the problem with urban America is that urban America thinks white is rich. It's like, no. We have to separate that whiteness.
But they
separate it.
They enslave themselves though, the same way that we do. Like I always say, I make a point to always separate Anglo-Saxon from white or white Americans, because again, it's not real, but it's also not the same in terms of, if we understood and if there was that separation, I agree with you 100%. As when you deconstruct race, both sides have to collapse. You can't just say, oh yeah, we still walking around calling people white. It's like, no, once we get rid of black, you get rid of white. And it's like white ethnics and all of those different drop down menus come too. It's like, no, you're not white, you're Italian, you're Jewish, you're
Irish,
Latino,
you're Welsh, you're English,
you're
Scottish. But the reason I want to break it down, because I know we're going on a tirade or something. Well, I wasn't around, I'm known for it.
It's all good.
But the reason I want to break that down is because in the Western imagination, it's always seen that Western countries are politically stable and everybody else isn't. So once you break down that Orientalism of the West is here and everybody else has to catch up, you begin to understand the economic systems and why trade is so important. It's like global trade. The triangle trade was just an extension of global trade.
Mm-hmm.
So the Anglo-American trade that we're talking about, because when you say Anglo-Saxon, I think of Anglo-American trade,
yes, because
that Anglo-American capitalism, because that's what we live with and under. And
that may be a better moniker, Anglo-American.
It's just the more accepted one.
But
Terms
in
go.
terms of like, I feel like it connecting more.
Yeah.
Because when people think Anglo-Saxon, they don't necessarily immediately move to the Americas.
Gotcha.
So no, that may be a better moniker. But it's funny that you say that, and it's crazy because people always want to say blackness is a monolith or is not a monolith. I'm sorry. People say blackness is not a monolith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, again, I understand how you can say that and come to that, but I don't agree. Because when you say that, you're thinking about only one facet of black people. And I think people focus on the cultural aspect of black people. I agree 100% that black people are not a monolith when it comes to how we culturally or how we express ourselves, our interests, and all of those things. But what I always try to get people to understand is what we were talking about, that economic line. Blackness is a monolith. We have super anomalies because I myself right now, again, like we talked about in the last video, it's like, look, just to not get locked up kind of puts you outside of the patterns that black males experience. To be 29 making almost six figures is another thing that you're just not going to see, which is why black women have a lot of issues with finding suitable mates, because there aren't that many men who are, again, allowed into the economic piece. Like, yeah, we can express, we are completely different people in terms of what we interact with, content-wise, how we dress, how we talk. All of those things are completely different. But I always try to get people to understand, like, look, that though is a blanket statement in itself.
I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. I get the perspective. But again, my frame of reference is that of a person who loves to read, and I like to get lost inside of libraries. And that's just all to encapsulate that it's an extensive frame of reference, because I'm one of those super anonymous. Mm-hmm. That just says my isolation. That's necessary a thing about superiority. But you're trying to get people to understand how law works and how the function of institutions. See, this is the problem that I have when it comes down to respectability. Not on the side of against respectability. It's like, no, this is what I need somebody who doesn't deal with institutions and live an institutional life. Inside of an institution, I need to justify that number. Because at that number, now we can talk about program utility, we can talk about 100 utility, we can talk about anything. But we know people are numbers. And we need those numbers to justify the funding. So if I know that you're not going to meet the conditions just because you think it's owed to you, like, no, bro. We can argue for reparations all day long, but I argue for character development. I can give you the money. I can give you the house.
But that's the thing, though.
Hold on, let me finish. It's like, it's character development. That's why when I argue for reparations, and when I argue for, because I don't think it's reparations really, I just think it's the inclusion on the wealth creation of America. Once I get my bag, I want that so that I can help take care of my family. I don't want America to constantly keep intruding and telling me how my family is supposed to be raised, because again, when you talk about the men not having the money, that's a very paterfamilias, that's a very male-driven Monahan report. Like, wait, because that's why I always say you got to end sexism and racism, because if the mothers had gotten the money and gotten a check and was able to take care of their children, then I don't understand why you have the Black American man going like, well, that doesn't make me a man. It's like, nah. If you understand that you're not being given that level of access, but she's given that level of access, flipping on America. It's like, cool. You won't let me in, but you won't let her in. So when she gets home, I'll make sure she's taken care of. I'll make sure the house is taken care of. I may not necessarily be able to participate or bring value to the table monetarily, but I can make sure that I enrich myself enough so that if I have children, I'm offsetting the balance because I know how to take care of the kids. now I don't have to worry about this, and I know how to deal with things inside of the house. I don't have to have money to be valuable.
No, I get that. I get that 100%. But I think it's devoid of how women are also interacting with that phenomenon. I personally would love to be a house husband.
I would love that.
Please, let me be a house husband. Take care of me. I will massage your feet. I don't gotta go out and deal with people. Please. Thank you. I have no issue with that, but it causes a discord between the group collectively because of how people interact with that. It shouldn't be a thing, but it is a thing. And you have to break through that thing. And in terms of, advocating for reparations, I understand the character development part. But the reason why that's there is because you have to infuse, which I agree with, and stimulate those people, that group, to even start building the character, because we're talking about a dead group. We're talking about a group, like we said, that's maimed, that's bleeding out at this point. When they say you're both hitting zero by 2050, probably sooner due to COVID. Thank you. And I get it. But like you said, I gotta repair you first for you to even be able to, because it's not as if we aren't in a situation where the country is kind of just like tricked us off, right? Fucked us up and left us alone. And now we're in a situation where we actually progress. They aren't doing anything to us. No, they still. Yes, and that's weird. And that's the thing. You gotta stop. Like, you actually have to stop just messing with us first to even begin the repairing. So it's like, nah, I 100% believe in it. But man, you know what? Good points. Definitely understand both sides. But I want to thank everybody for coming out to join us today. Can you like the video, share, comment if you have any suggestions on topics or anything you would like to see or hear us talk about. Definitely put those in the suggestions, and we'll try to do some lives around, everything that people kind of want, in terms of, discussions, and try to engage the community. But again, thank you all. Y'all be safe, stay COVID free, and we'll catch y'all again.